Hey guys, this is Idea Coach Rome. We're on the weight class for UFC 161, where the main event is going to be Dan Henderson taking on Rashad Evans. I would quickly like to talk about the fight that is not going to take place in this card, and that's being Lil Nog versus Shogun. I really wanted to talk about this so bad, so I'm just going to do it anyway. I feel that Nogueira is at the point in his career now with this latest injury, probably in his last one or two fights. He's been hurt too much. He's in a division which, the lack of speed is the most cruel. And, his record against wrestlers has not been all that great in the UFC. He hasn't put on the best UFC run. However, I think a style like Shogun actually plays pretty well for him. Shogun, since their first fight, when Shogun was the true man of the 205 division, it has really declined a lot, mainly because of a lot of injuries. And his past couple of fights, you just never know what Shogun's going to show up. He's ever since he moved away from the Shooting Box Academy, he sometimes looks like the best fighter in the world, and other times he just doesn't look like his head is in the game. And I think just based off like ratios, Nogueira would have been able to win that because more than likely the real Shogun would not have shown up. Even if he did, could he because of all the injuries he sustained in his career? So let's go on to the main event. Now this main event kind of irritates me in a couple of ways. One, these two fighters don't really have nothing to gain from fighting each other. I really believe that Evans should fight Shogun sometime in his career. Henderson, at this point in the game, I don't know what his title shots are looking like. I know he has those aspirations of wearing that UFC belt. I just don't think it's going to happen. But mostly because this is a 3-round fight. And it's a UFC main event, so it should be a 5-round fight. And this kind of upsets me because the UFC cannot decide when certain fights are going to be 3 rounds or 5 rounds. It's kind of like just very willy-nilly when it comes to that. And I really don't think having 5-round fights at this point in the UFC's evolution is really all that necessary because they hold too many different fights, and not every single main event should be a 5-rounder. This does help Henderson a little bit because Henderson's cardio is always kind of questionable. But I would actually say this actually helps Rashad Evans out even more because Rashad Evans is like two different versions. There's Rashad Evans that moves way too much, far too inefficiently with head bobbings and fakes ups and downs. I think that he transforms after like the 9th minute of fighting to a guy that's looking out for a one knockout punch. And that's pretty much Dan Henderson is the entire fight now. You can say what you want about Dan Henderson. I still don't like the fact that he's on TRT. I really don't. A guy who lost to Kazu Misaki is now knocking out Fedor, and he's older. Makes no damn sense to me. None whatsoever. I don't care what you have to say. It's still cheating. Rashad Evans is now being more of a proponent for TRT, and I don't know whether or not he has a clearance for it walking in this fight or not, but it does sound like he will be using that sometime in the future. Rashad Evans is actually kind of finding himself on the chopping block of the UFC. With his loss to Lil Nogueira, kind of left a lot of fans perplexed as to where he stands in the 205 division. I personally feel that was just one bad performance, but after losing to John Jones, it nothing but amplifies that loss. Even with his victories, however, I'm talking about Diego Silva, Quentin Rampage Jackson, Phil Davis, Rashad has not performed to the level that we all think that he can. He hasn't finished a lot of people outside of two Ortiz, who is way past his prime when they fought the second time. It seems like Rashad has not actually performed the way he needs to perform ever since losing the belt to Lyoto Machida back in UFC 98. That's about 5 years ago now. So I think that he should have enough in his tank to take out Dan Henderson. And I say that only because Dan Henderson is a very arrogant fighter. He stands with Quentin Rampage Jackson. He doesn't take Anderson Silva down in the second round of their fight. The Lyoto Machida fight, everyone knew exactly what Lyoto Machida was going to do, and Dan Henderson made absolutely no adjustments at all in his game plan to accommodate for it. And everyone's pissed off at Lyoto Machida. No, it's Dan Henderson's fault for not making any sort of adjustments. And if it wasn't for that big overhand right with the Michael Bisping fight, I really do feel that Michael Bisping could have won on points if he didn't have such a weak jaw in that match. So I'm going to actually give the nod to Rashad Evans. I hope he pulls this one off. Guys, share, subscribe, take care.